We can't have the projector up because it's going to shine in their eyes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. We're getting back into the swing of in-person meetings. I hope to have them more often. Bear with us. Ready?
Good morning. My name is Ana Armenta. I am the Arizona Racing Commission Secretary. I would like to remind everyone attending in person, if you can please silence your cell phones and keep the chatter to a minimum, because the microphones do pick up a lot of the sound in the back. We'll go ahead and get started. Today is July 11th, 2024. The 725th Arizona Racing Commission taking place in person and via Google Meet. I will do the roll call. Madam Chair?
Here.
Vice Chair Olson?
Present.
Commissioner Coolidge?
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. It is now 10:08 a.m.
Thank you. I'm going to call to order the 725th Arizona Racing Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, July 11th, 2024. Commissioner Coolidge, can you speak for us? It sounded like it was a little hard to hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Is this okay or no?
Now we've got it. We've got some challenges with our for the public. We'll start with action or item number B, action item review discussion possible action for a request for approval of Turf Paradise Race Meet 3-year commercial and teletrack permit. Do I have any comments from staff?
Chair, Commissioners, Juan Estrada, Arizona Department of Gaming.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And we can hear him okay?
Yeah, just speak a little further into the mic if you can, Juan.
So to provide an update, Turf Paradise provided all the necessary documents. They've been submitted, or were submitted to an accounting firm, which was under review, and it's under review. I believe we have him online, so he can discuss a little further. But as far as the documentation that's needed, I just want to take the time to thank Ms. Patty Shakur and Dave Johnson for turning everything in as it was needed. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Casillas and the accounting firm, Mr. Sean Tanner.
Thank you.
Right, Turf Paradise submitted their renewal application on May 28th. Immediately thereafter, I issued an administrative complete letter to Turf Paradise. As far as everything that was necessary, it appears that Turf Paradise submitted all documentation that was requested by the department. At this time, I believe that Mr. Sean Tanner can provide a financial update. The written report will not be completed until sometime next week. So once we receive that, we'll forward a copy to the commission.
So would we be looking at a conditional approval today, pending that final report?
Madam Chair, my recommendation would be, regardless, for a conditional approval based on the repair list that we have given Turf Paradise to get the track up to par so that it's safe for the equine and the jockeys and all participants of the race meet.
Director Casillas.
Director Casillas, could you also provide us some additional updates regarding your review of the application and maybe a high-level summary?
Well, I think Mr. Estrada can give you that. He's the one that processed and reviewed. So.
Thank you.
So again, at a high level, again, this is Juan Estrada, Arizona Department of Gaming. At a high level, again, they turned in everything as required. The only thing that was missing were audited financials, which we received yesterday. Other than that, I couldn't have been any happier with the way they turned in the documents.
Okay, and everything is up to the department standards and you're recommending, again, conditional approval?
Correct. So everything they submitted was up to the requirements of the department. The rest lies on the financial investigation, but as far as the paperwork that was turned in, yes, everything was turned in. And again, like Mr. Casillas, I would recommend a conditional approval pending remedies and fixes on the track to make sure that it's safe for the horses and the equine and licensees on the backside. And contingent upon receiving the final written due diligence report from Mr. Sean Tanner.
Is Mr. Tanner available to speak today?
He's online.
Hi there. Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Tanner, can you introduce yourself and give us more information?
Yes. So my name's Sean Tanner. I'm a director here at Keegan Linscott. We've been contracted to do to analyze the various documents, focus primarily on financial documents associated with a request to renew a license.
Mr.
And
Tanner?
so, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Tanner. This is Vice Chair Olson. Could you please summarize your conclusions? I understand we have a final report forthcoming, but if you could summarize your conclusions and your review of the financial statements for us, that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been through the financial data. We've prepared most of our analysis. We are working on the report. As you mentioned, it's not final. We do have a couple of follow-up items. And so, what I'm going to discuss today is preliminary. It's not, our final report will be issued sometime in the upcoming week or so. So effectively, we looked at 5 years of historical data as well as 2024 data through March. And we really focused pretty heavily on, just the prior few years of information as being, the most relevant indicators of how Turf Paradise is doing. So a couple things I want to point out from a financial perspective. Turf Paradise did reflect positive net income for 2021, 2022, and 2023. However, that net income was really created or supplemented by incentive monies that Turf Paradise was able to obtain in association with various COVID relief programs. Those programs included paycheck protection loans, so the PPP monies. It included ERC monies, which is the employee retention credit, and then it included federal and state fiscal recovery funds, which are also associated with those incentive monies approved by the federal and state governments. In total, during those years, Turf Paradise received about $24 million between those various different programs. Those monies are non-recurring, meaning that they're not an indicator of what one could expect on a go-forward basis for the business. When you back those dollars out, Turf Paradise showed net losses of $2.9 million in 2022, $3.4 million in 2023, and for the first 3 months of 2024, a loss of $1.4 million, which if you annualize is $5,725,000. I don't know that it's fair to totally annualize that March number because, of course, Turf Paradise has an upcoming race, or they intend to host an upcoming race, and that's where they'll generate a good amount of revenue. And so the losses they incurred during that first 3 months, it may not be fair to assume they'll incur that same level of loss for the next 3 quarters of 2024 because they will have revenue coming in from that event. But nonetheless, if we do annualize that number, the losses increased from $2.9 million in 22 to $3.4 million in 23 to an annualized loss of $5.7 million in 2024. So when we look at that trend, that gives us some concern about long-term viability of the business if it continues to operate as it is. A business cannot operate with recurring losses year after year after year. The business is actually projecting losses for 2025 and 2026 based on the projections we've received. So, that would be 6 years of recurring losses through the longest date for which we have projections. Now, I understand that this interest is in two parts, not only the long-term viability of the business, but the ability of the business to carry out the races in November. And so there are a number of things that we considered in that regard. And so while I've given you these loss numbers, those losses include a couple of expenses that are not recurring. So we did inquiries with management. We reviewed other projected financial information. And there's about $2 million per year of losses that were incurred in association with the litigation involving Ronald Sims. That litigation is now in appellate court and awaiting a judgment. So management does expect those expenses to be discontinued on a go-forward basis, or very much so limited. So if you added back $2 million, well, I guess, so from a non-recurring perspective, we added back that $2 million per year, that estimate or approximation of the legal fees that's been incurred by the business. Another category of, I wouldn't say restructuring, but it's going to change the future expenses of the business, is related to Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Association fees. So approximately $700,000 is paid per year in relation to those association fees. And it's our understanding, based on discussion with management, I don't know this, I don't have firsthand knowledge, maybe you do, but that $700,000 per year is going to be paid by the state. So going forward, and so that won't be a recurring loss or expense of the business. So that's about $2.7 million per year that theoretically will be avoided in the future. So if we added those amounts back to 2022, 2023, and 2024 annualized, just to see what recurring expenses or recurring operating results would look like, that results in 2022's loss of $2.9 million being reduced to $207,000. So closer to break even. For 2023, the $3.4 million loss would be reduced to $709,000. And the annualized 2024 loss of $5.7 million would be reduced to $3 million. Now, again, I don't think that $3 million loss that annualization is an entirely accurate or fair number, because again, the races will produce revenue that will offset some of the expenses and losses that the company has incurred year to date so far in 2024. However, that said, it's still an increasing loss every year. So even if they avoid recover a large portion of that loss in 2024 via carrying out the races, we're still seeing an upward trend. So again, in 2022, even after adjustment for these non-recurring items, the company lost $207,000. In 2023, they lost $709,000. And in 2024, it looks like that trend may continue. I can't say that with certainty because I don't have a budget for the race, so I don't know how much income Turf Paradise expects to produce. But based on the loss of $1.4 million through March of 2024, it looks like that upward trend in increasing losses has continued. Now, that all said, so again, those factors lead me to have some concern about the long-term viability of the business without restructuring. But in terms of more recent events that you're considering, so the race is coming up in November, it does appear that the business will be able to carry out those races without a problem. I can't say that with certainty, but I can say that my concerns are alleviated by the following facts. So, one, the legal fees are expected to discontinue. Two, Mr. Sims has historically provided loans to Turf Paradise when needed. And I'll talk a little bit about, Mr. Sims' wherewithal and his the net worth that was reported on his application. I won't go into a lot of details because I'm not sure who, unless I'm allowed to do so. But I will talk about his ability to provide those loans. It does look like he has the ability to provide some loans if Turf Paradise needs it, at least through November, or through the completion of the races that I understand to be beginning in November. So again, they have these recurring losses. Mr. Sims has provided loans in the past. Now, as part of the application process, net worth of majority owners has to be disclosed. Am I okay to talk about that?
No, this is Jerry Sims, and there's an awful
Okay.
lot of people on this phone, and I would strongly ask you not to disclose my.
Understood.
What I
Understood.
have made is that I would make available money as the tracks needs it, and have done that for many years. So,
Mr. Sims, you'll have an opportunity to speak.
but I didn't want him to say that, and then I can't unring the bell once he's.
That's fine, but we'll go into further detail after the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I won't get into that detail now, but if there's a smaller group or a closed session where that's appropriate, I'm happy to get into that detail. But again, Mr. Sims has provided loans to the company in the past. And so, and during our interviews of Mr. Sims, he's indicated as he just said, his continued support to do so. So again, I think there are two issues here. I think, there's clearly some concern because of recurring losses about long-term viability of the racetrack unless restructuring efforts are undertaken. And I don't have any information about restructuring efforts that may be available. I only have the projections through 2026, which show the continued losses. However, as it relates to the race, the upcoming race, the business does still have $2.4 million of money in the bank. And based on those, recurring operating results that were a loss of 200,000 in 22, 700,000 in 2023, and an amount that is expected to be, possibly increasing, but I don't have the numbers through year end, but I understand, I have financials that show $1.4 million loss through March. It appears that the cash in the bank will help bridge that gap to get to the race, as will, if needed, Mr. Sims has indicated his support to provide loans to the business, as required. So again, these are preliminary results. Our concerns about a November race are limited based on those results. But again, our concerns about long-term viability would have to be addressed through restructuring efforts that management and ownership would carry out to turn around the operating losses that have continued for the last 3.5 years, looks like they're going to continue through year end and are projected to continue in 2025 and 2026.
Thank you. Mr. Tanner, Commissioner Olson has a question for you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr.
Okay.
Tanner. This is Vice Chair Olson. I have 2 questions for you I'm hoping you can address. One of your statements previously was related to your 2025-2026 projections. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to the trend line, whether those are following the current trend of increased losses, or if you have any idea of what that trend looks like. I understand that you said you're predicting a loss, but just understanding kind of the magnitude of that. And then my second question for you is, you've indicated that these are preliminary and that you still have some follow-up items. If you could kind of give us an idea of what's left to do so we can understand kind of what might be at issue or what might change from today's preliminary conclusions.
Absolutely. So the projections we received, again, to clarify, these are not my projections. These are management's projections. The projections we received showed a loss of 2.1 million in 2025 and 1.8 million in 2026. However, those projections do still have some of the fees that are expected to be discontinued. Specifically, they include the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Association fees, which are $700,000 per year. So theoretically, those losses, if the state covers those costs, would go down from 2.1 million in 25 and 1.8 million in 26 by $700,000 in each of those years. So 26 looks like a slight improvement over 25, but both of those figures are higher than the losses that were incurred in 2022 and 2023. Now, that said, again, we don't have, we haven't audited these numbers. These are management's projections. Generally, if these projections showed a vast improvement over 22, 23, and 24, I would have, spent more time, our firm would have spent more time beating them up, because I'd want to understand if there were recurring losses and all of a sudden the company is expecting to make a bunch of money, how is that possible? That would have to be explained to me. But because the company is continuing to project losses, we don't do as much work in that area, because they're basically saying, hey, we're continuing on this path we've been on. It's not one that's viable into perpetuity. And so something has to change. And that seems to be evident even based on the projections that we received from management. And so did that answer your question there?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And as it relates to our open items, it's primarily administrative. It's reporting, it's writing up all of our findings. We do have a little bit more research to do in a couple of areas, specifically just some of the incentive monies. I mean, generally, we look at incentive monies and we consider them to be, somewhat of a risk item for any business. This isn't specific to Turf Paradise, but incentive monies could be audited. And so there was a large amount of incentive monies in this business that came into the business, and those incentive monies let me just pull it up. In 2022, for example, those incentive monies took the business from a loss of 2.9 million to 14.9 million of positive net income. And so clearly that's a lot of income to be generated from that. I don't know at this point how those funds were redeployed or used entirely. I do have some preliminary information on it, but we do want to look into that a little more as a potential risk for the business. But I'm not saying it is a risk. I'm just saying we haven't finished looking at that area yet. And that's probably the biggest area we have left to look at.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner.
Mr. Tanner, so the loans from Mr. Sims are not obligations Mr. Sims must incur, they're voluntary, correct?
That is correct. There is no contractual requirement for him to make those additional loans. So again, he could choose not to. And if the company continued to lose money and didn't have enough cash in the bank, clearly that would be an operational concern and a concern about the ability of the business to continue.
Thank you. I have a request for public comment from Mr. Nolan. Would you like to come up on this item? And Mr. Nolan, I will consider this time into any of your public comment as well, please.
I'm concerned about that because under procedure before the department, R19-124, under the dealing with permit, it's a party appearing before the commission shall be afforded an opportunity for a hearing and respond and present evidence and argument on all issues. I bring up several issues. So I expect the time. I'm here to bring awareness and accountability so that you know how to move forward. You're new. You haven't been through the permit process. I'd like to talk about the last two, and there's reasons for that would help going forward. But what's so concerning is just hearing this financial report. There's grave concern. First, that financial officer stated that they project a court case of 15 years to be ending soon. How wonderful. But it was costing $2 million a year for at least the last two. That's one party. The other party spending probably that too. So you have 15 years at $2 million, that's 30 million one side, 30 million another. One of these parties might win or lose. We have to be ready. There's an awareness that has to be brought to the table. What happens if Ron Sims wins this litigation? What happens if Jerry does? There's concerns that this commission needs to put under the regulation at this permit. My goal is really would try to order the commission more so than Director Casillas has offered to do, conditional based on all the safety factors of the state. But now HIS is involved. If HIS has said something too, those conditions must be met, and they must be met under the following rule, R19-106A, which states, if the stewards feel it's not clean, neat, or safe, it needs to be brought into compliance immediate. It doesn't say, let's have a hearing and talk about it. An order done immediate. I didn't write that statute, but that needs to be addressed because it's been misaddressed. And I'll give you an example I was going to bring up the permit hearing 3 years ago. The reason I bring that up, it was all virtual. It was pandemic time. I submitted a document to be heard. It was heard. When called upon, I was available. I called in as required. I was muted from their end, from the department's end. I filed an appeal. I even had a response to appeal that whole decision. Because what happened in that
Is
case,
this in regards to this current permit?
yeah,
Let's
it's
stay
background on this permit. You need to know, you haven't been through the permit. The permit process prior to that was Commissioner Coolidge put it conditional on safety factors. The last permit got away with an unconditional permit due to no failure of mine. I tried. No failure of the horsemen and the breeders. They spoke, but they spoke under a different topic. You need to know, and I'm allowed to be heard. I've been shut off enough. I've got 40 years in that community and I've watched the life be sucked out of the vegetation and of the whole business. How does that business not be live?
Let's stay on subject.
I am. Please put it conditional based upon HISA. Everything that the stewards would order, that's not clean. And you have to order it because I'll bring up a reason why. The director has been somewhat lax in his regulatory duties. Let's speak about the last commission meeting dealing with this permit. It's dealing with this permit because you allowed it to happen. Director Casillas cited statute, which was totally inapplicable. He cited a statute under license and nowhere in it had permit. Excuse me, section 41, 1092-1. And he misled you. It didn't say which includes a permit or certification. It says a license makes it timely and sufficient. He injected that himself. He misled you. And the reason that's important is because for the last 10 days, he didn't have a permit in full force and effect.
All right, let me ask you.
Yes.
There's 2 points. And we do appreciate your opinion and your thoughts. So don't be concerned that we don't want to hear you. I do respect your opinion and I respect your history. However, I do ask that you also respect mine. Just because I haven't been through the Turf Paradise permit process, you have no idea what my history is with permitting. So keep that in mind. Number 2, you want races. I continually hear you up here talking about wanting races, but then you continually complain about Turf Paradise. You're not going to have one without the other. We have to work together.
I agree.
Thank you.
And with that said, I'm not complaining about turf. I complained about the regulatory and adequacy. The rules are there. I wish that facility needs to be returned to the year 2000 before Mr. Sims came to town. This unindicted co-conspirator quit it. This has been allowed to happen long enough. There's accountability and awareness for us to make racing better in our state. It needs to start with this commission. And I think I could keep
And
going.
you just heard that he's running at a loss now.
That
Would you like it to close?
No, it needs to be properly regulated. Where's the monies? It needs to be investigated in itself. Is it just the accountants moving the monies that make it look like a loss? Because every other racetrack in the country is making money. How does this in the 5th largest city be failing? There's problems, regulatory failures to oversight to protect the racing participants and the wagering public. I don't believe he should share in these last 10 days' profits. That money should go to Horseman. He operated illegally.
Why is that?
Because he operated illegally without a permit in full force and effect.
Is your opinion? Is your opinion? There's
I'm
been no
allowed-
findings to that.
There is no findings to the other. It was your decision to allow it. I will also finish by stating the Arizona Revised Statute clearly defines the difference between licensing and permit in their definitions. I'm not going to read them to you, but that's Title 5, Section 101 under definitions. License, permit, 2 different things. And then under the Arizona Administrative Code, they have 2 sections concerning permit, the application process and the permittee responsibilities. 2 sections later, it's dealing with licensing. They are not coinciding. For him to do what he did to cover up a
Can I ask
I'm
you a
sorry.
question? Can I ask
that
you a
money should go to
question?
Horseman.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Have you gotten legal advice on this?
I did
subject?
actually. Yes, I did.
And is your attorney here that
No.
can address this?
No,
Okay.
but I
Well,
did reach out.
And the commission also obtains legal
And
advice.
I guess then I'm disputing that, and I have 30 days from the last meeting to appeal that decision.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate your time. Accountability and awareness in order to help our industry move forward. There's a problem. Financials, the way it looks, there's problems, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, may I respond?
Yes, Director Casillas.
Madam Chair, Mr. Nolan made a
Mr.
statement.
Director Casillas, I know you're soft-spoken, but we need to work on those mics.
Thank you. Mr. Nolan made a comment that I stated that Title 41, 1092 was non-applicable in this case. Mr. Nolan is very wrong in this matter. 41, 1092.11 includes a license, a permit, a certification. Furthermore, under ARS 41, 1001, it very clearly states that a license is also considered a permit. So Mr. Nolan is 100% wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other comments? Mr. Sims, did you want to speak further on your application?
Let's see. Yes, oh, yeah. Thank you, Chairman. I can just tell you that, we operate, many tracks in the country have, other forms of gaming, slot machines or HHR machines and, New York and Florida and Churchill Downs and on and on and on. And as we've seen tracks close, like Golden Gate closed, Bay Meadows before them in Northern Cal closed. I don't think Santa Anita's operating on strong financials. It's very difficult when you do that. Now, one of the things we're doing is opening more OTBs to the accountants. I hadn't explained that to them or mentioned that to them when I was interviewed, but we have two really good ones opening up hopefully shortly. And we'll continue that. Those are like retail stores, and we need to grow the OTB system, and we are. And as far as the business, I feed it. When it needs money, I write checks, and I'm going to protect my investment. I have an investment, and I'm going to write checks. And when the company needs money, as the auditor said, we didn't put a rosy future out there. Our projections are very realistic. They could get better by more OTBs and other things, but the numbers are what the numbers are, and I have continued to feed it. So, and will continue. So I don't think anybody needs in this in Arizona racing needs to be worried that we're not going to be. I know the auditor mentioned restructuring. I don't know what he means. Restructuring has a bad sound to me. I've never in 24 years needed to restructure, and in my entire business career, and I'm 78, I've never had a loss. I've never had a restructuring. I've never had any kind of negative things occur, and this will continue to be financially strong by me just writing checks. And so that is what I have done, will continue to do, make a commitment to this commission and to the people in the industry, the horsemen, and to the state, that I will continue to do that. So that's as clear as I can tell you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. This is Vice Chair
Thank you.
Olson. I have a question for you or potentially somebody on your team. Mr. Tanner spoke to the losses that were, the loss projections that your management team has submitted for the years of 2025 and 2026. And those losses are trending towards the black. I mean, trending in a good direction in the sense that it goes from 3.4 to 2.1 to 1.8. And I'm wondering if you or somebody on your management team can speak to the factors that are mitigating the annual loss.
Yes, it's a very simple formula of revenue and expenses. And you take a look at your revenue, you have expenses to keep the facility, no matter what Mr. Nolan says. I defy anybody, you know, we're doing 150 projects over this summer. And Mr. Mayor asked me, my general manager this week, about adding staff to that to help him get through all those projects. And I said yes. And so to answer your question, Commissioner, it's just a function of, you know, expenses that need to be taken care of. You know, we're going through every single piece of rolling equipment is being overhauled this summer. Every single tractor, every water truck, every bit of it through a company called Dynamic Diesel. We have two additional, not floats, but we're matching up with the other ones that we had that grade the track. We're every single piece is being gone through. So it costs money to do those things, but I never sacrifice any of that for expense so I can save money. I try to do it so it makes economic sense and we don't throw money at things that don't need to be, in our opinion. But safety has always been number one, and we're going to continue to do everything we need to do to make sure. I don't want to see a water truck break down during a session and then have to bring another one out and all that. I want everything running properly. So that's why we're having them go across every single piece of rolling equipment. I think we have about 40 pieces of equipment, about 40. And I want to report back. I've gotten a report on the condition of each one, what they plan to do to each one. And so that's, I hope that answers your question. But we won't have, hopefully, the HISA expense because the state is taking on that expense. So that will lessen by about 700,000 each year. And I can't guarantee what's going to happen with the legal fees. Whatever happens, happens. I'm going to write the checks, so and loan the company the money.
Mr. Sims, this is Chairman French Contreras. You made a comment about your additional off-track betting sites. Can you give me a little bit better clarification as far as, or one of your team, give me clarification as far as your projected income for live racing versus off-track facilities?
Generally, OTBs bring in about 80% of our revenue, and on track about 20%. During COVID, we lost a lot of locations, and it's just the way it goes. And so a lot of small businesses didn't make it. So Dave Johnson and Jesse worked to come up with new ones. They come up with two new ones that they think are going to be two of our best ones that are in the cities now to be approved. And they're out looking for more. We lost a good one at Gallagher's at 16th, but I'm told by Dave Johnson 2 days ago that he's almost positive that it's going to be reopened under a new name from another company. So those are our retail stores, and when you lose good ones or they go out of business in COVID, all I do is write more checks to make sure the place keeps going. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best to try to do everything I can to make sure I make everybody feel comfortable that the place is safe and equipment up to par. We can't go out and buy $3 million tractors and spend $100 million more on equipment. But we have good equipment, you know, we've got good John Deere tractors, we've got Case tractors, or, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ramble, but, I'm
Mr.
trying to
This is
answer, go ahead.
Chair-
Mhm.
That's okay. This is Chairman French, or Chairperson French Contreras. Your loans to Turf Paradise, does that then is going to be detracted from or taken from the value of turf as far as any future sale, or there's an obligation then for Turf Paradise to pay those loans back? Are those considered in your liabilities?
Yes, yes, they are. Yes, they are. And upon a sale, I would be repaid.
Thank you. Any other questions?
If there are no questions from Commissioner Coolidge, I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session to discuss with our attorney.
Second.
Thank you. So I've got a first and a second. Anna?
Thank you. With a motion by Commissioner Olson and a second by Madam Chair, I will call the roll. Madam Chair French Contreras,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner Coolidge.
Yes.
With a total of 3, thank you. That motion passes. It is now 10:48 a.m. and we will move into executive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. I apologize to keep you waiting, but we need to have a executive session and we'll be back as quick as we can. Thank you.
Apologies. Thank you.
for sure, and look really this is considering. For example, the ten to four constitutionally strike sanitize. It was literally nothing like this. If it made perfect sense. For the one to appreciate it. And so
Okay, I think we're ready. We are back. I will take the roll call. Madam Chair, French Contreras,
Here.
Vice Chair Olson,
Present.
Commissioner Coolidge.
Present.
Thank you. With a total of 3 yeses, that motion passes. And
No.
I mean, sorry. We have a quorum. It is now 11:30 a.m.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. We're back on item B regarding the permit. Do I have anyone else that wants to talk on this subject? Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
Yes.
I move to continue item B1 until we receive a receipt of the audited financial statements from Keegan Linscott and Associates, and until then to reconvene the hearing at that time.
Do I have a second? Hearing no second, that motion does not pass. Do I have another motion? Let me make a motion. I make a motion for approval of the permit conditional upon the financials being reviewed by this department annually, and the receipt and final disposition of that financial report, as well as completion of the repair list that was submitted.
Second.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I have a motion by Madam Chair French Contreras and a second by Commissioner Coolidge. I will call the roll. Madam Chair,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Madam Chair, may I explain my vote? I vote no only because I would like to see the financial statements, but just wanted to give that reason.
Commissioner Coolidge,
Yes.
with a total of 2 yeses and 1 no, that motion does not pass. Thank
Correct.
you. It does? I thought we need 3. No? Okay, sorry. That motion passes on conditional approval.
Thank you. Moving down to item C, information report. Let's go to number 1 first. We have track safety reports. Do we have staff that would like to speak? How are we doing with our sound?
Good.
We're good? Okay.
Hi, I'm Fanny Alvarez, safety steward. I just wanted to mention that we had a meeting with the HPPA, the Jocks Guild, and Mr. Francis earlier this week. And we just gave them a new list of the repairs and things that need to be addressed. And we will be meeting weekly to see what's going on, do updates, send them an email, maybe early in the week, and try to check everything by the end of the week.
How often are they reporting in?
We will be reporting weekly, so we'll be checking in weekly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing else on track safety. Let's move down to number 2, C2 budget report.
And I apologize to interrupt. Does the commission still want me to participate on the call, or if there's no additional questions for me,
Mr. Tanner?
yes.
No, sir, you're fine. That item has passed pending, conditional approval pending receipt of your report.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Andrew Hawks from the Department of Gaming. I'll be giving the budget report and the legislative update after, but I'll pause for questions in between. The state's fiscal year just ended. Are we on slide 1, Drew? The state's fiscal year just ended, so here are the final numbers for fiscal year 2024. We ended the year with about $2.4 million in the racing fund as a cash balance. Our total revenues received for fiscal year 24 was approximately $1.5 million, broken out by type. And the total expenses in the fiscal year were approximately $2.1 million, which is about a $600,000 negative cash flow, mostly attributed to the lower revenue from less live racing. Next slide, please. All right, this chart represents our spending in comparison to the white line on it, which is a glide path from $0 to the total appropriation of $2.33 million. And the department spent just shy of its total appropriation. Next slide, please. This last chart represents the cash balance throughout the year. And like I mentioned, speaking on the first slide, there was about a $600,000 decrease in cash this year. Any questions?
I have a question. Earlier we heard about this state picking up the HISA assessment. How does that factor into our accounts or the appropriation? Where are we getting that from?
It has its own appropriation, so it doesn't count against the $2.3 million authority to spend in fiscal year 25. However, it doesn't have its own cash source, so it will be coming out of the racing fund.
So it's
And
not a line item?
it is an appropriations line item, but it doesn't come with any extra money from the general fund. So this chart, the cash flow chart, will actually, at the very beginning of fiscal year 25, which is this month, it'll show a significant dip because the state is going to be paying out the HISA funds this month, next month, sometime in the near future.
It's due at the beginning of the fiscal year. Okay, thank you.
Correct. And that's for calendar year 24.
Thank you.
Any other questions on budget?
No, looks like we're good.
All right, and I apologize, we're still down a legislative liaison, so you're stuck with me once again. The 2024 legislative session ended in June. And some of the legislation that impacted the racing industry includes a bill outlawing simulcast wagering on dog races within the U.S. after December 31st, 2028, and outlawing simulcast wagering on dog races outside the U.S. on or after June 30, 2024. And so that part's effective now. We also had a bill that continued the Arizona Racing Commission through July 1st, 2026 to regulate the racing industry in the state for the protection of the public peace, safety, and welfare. And in the last commission meeting, there was an inquiry about whether the $1.5 million capital improvements and maintenance special line item can go to multiple permittees. The department is not involved in budget negotiations or drafting budget language and has not yet received the funds or instructions for how we should distribute those funds when received. And I would invite you to reach out to your legislative representatives to further clarify. Any questions?
I have a question, but it's not on the legislative update, but wondering if you have a related update regarding communications about appointing the empty seats. I don't know if you're the right person to speak to that.
The empty seats on the commission?
That's correct.
I would not be the right person
Okay.
for that.
So sorry.
That's all right.
Vice Chair Olson, I can address that. The Boards and Commissions Director has submitted applications submitted for the Racing Commission vacancies to the Governor's Office. The Governor's Office staff is vetting those applications, and we hope to have some appointments made here in the very near future.
Thank you.
Do we have to wait until legislative session to finalize those, or will they be able to seat?
I
Upon
don't
appointment.
believe so. I think it's just approved by the Governor's Office at this point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, moving down to report from International Horse Racing Integrity Act. Mr. Gussman?
Yes, Madam Chair and Commissioners, Leroy Guessman with the National HBPA. We have finally some news. The 5th District finally put out their ruling on Friday afternoon of the July 4th long weekend. It's kind of weird timing, I thought. But anyway, they ruled that HISA is unconstitutional. However, I just want everybody to know we are not taking this as winning the lawsuit by any means. This is, I kind of look at it as like maybe a 9 or extra inning baseball game. This is just 1 inning, and so far we've won 2 innings and they've won 1 inning. But what I think this does do is it opens it up. Now, I think you're going to see the other 3 lawsuits that are still pending outcomes. I think you will see results from those lawsuits here shortly. But the one we're particularly interested in is the one in Louisiana, which is again in the same district. That lawsuit was filed by several HBPA, or it was filed by the Louisiana HBPA, but several of the other HBPAs and racetracks have asked to be joined to that lawsuit, and we're waiting on the results from the judge on that case to see if we're going to be allowed to join the lawsuit, and then his final opinion of whether HISA is constitutional or not. Everybody anticipates HISA will appeal to the Supreme Court. They have 45 days to do so, and I'm sure they will. The next step after 45 days, the lower district court where the case originally started, that judge then issues relief for the plaintiffs. So we'll be waiting to hear what he issues as the relief for the plaintiffs and what that may entail. But I just want, I've had 100 people ask me or call me and email me, but HISA still is in effect and will be in effect, I'm sure, for some time. There's a possibility HISA could go back to the legislature again. They'll definitely, I'm sure, appeal and ask to go to the Supreme Court. So we're just waiting for all that to see how it plays out. Now, one thing I would say for those that are really interested in the case, if you would go to the Steve Byk, BYK radio.com, that is a horse racing radio station. And on Monday, you can go to the archives and listen to his previous shows. But in his first segment on Monday, They had Alan Foreman, who is a spokesman for HISA, talk about his opinion of the result. And on Tuesday, they had Daniel Sir, who's the lead attorney for the National HPPA, talk about his opinion. So they're very interesting to listen to if people are interested in hearing about all of that. But that's where we are today. Any questions?
Mr. Gustman, thank you for the update. One question I had, and you may have mentioned this briefly, but was the decision from the circuit court, was that a three-judge panel, or do you know if it was en banc?
It was three-judge panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dropping down to the permittee reports. A, do we have anybody from American Greyhound Racing? County fairs? Turf Paradise?
Madam Chairwoman, Commissioner Vincent Francia for Turf Paradise.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it. Let me update you on the to-do letter, the list that was already referred to, that was sent to me on June the 24th. And this is a priority matter because it has to do, your conditional approval of our permit has to do with complying with all the items in this letter. And there are about 60 items. And we met last week with Mr. Estrada, his staff, and the HBPA, the Jockeys Guild was on board via phone. And we'd like to keep the weekly updates going because when you're dealing with a list this extensive, part of the problem can be people not knowing, well, gee, did you finish that project or when is that project scheduled? So it's important to keep everyone updated as much as possible. Many of the things on the list we do as a matter of course before we open each race meet, like inspect and repair all paddock stall ceilings, ensure that the phones at the scales where the jockeys weigh in post race is repaired, inspect all timers on the turf and main tracks for proper operations. We do those as a matter of course. What is probably of the most important on here is the main track and how we are addressing it this year and how we are going back to make sure that is as safe as possible. What I am doing right now, since we met, which I think will be helpful to Mr. Estrada and the department and those who are participating in the meetings, is the projects that we are being asked to do are kind of divided into two groups. Staff projects, that is, those projects on this list which the Turf Paradise staff is addressing and getting done. The second group is projects which we hire out to companies that we work with to take care. As mentioned earlier in the session, Mr. Sims brought up Dynamic Diesel. They are now in the process of taking all of our equipment, which is vital to the operation of the racetrack. They've already given us a synopsis of each piece of equipment, what is needed, and they have begun to take it into their company one by one so that everything is repaired and ready to go when the horses, prior to the horsemen getting here in August. So what I'm preparing now for the committee is the breakdown of what is a staff project and company project. What I will follow with is the scheduling of what is being done when, who is doing it, so that everyone is on a weekly basis that's at least updated. And when it comes time for our permit to go back before the commission for final approval, these points, which it's already been mentioned more than once, are contingent on being accomplished and done prior to getting approved will in fact be accomplished and done. If I might add one thing, if the chair would grant me 20 seconds,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I appreciate it, Chair. I've been with the track 34 years, so I'm not new around the racetrack. I've worked for Mr. Sims for 24 years. We are offering a race meet for the horsemen, meaning Mr. Sims, his staff, and the race meet that we are offering is 105 days, double the amount that the previous race meet was. And that's something that in order to pull this off, it involves everyone's input in a positive way. Personally, I've never found excessive criticism has never produced a positive outcome, and negativity has never produced a beneficial future. So as we go forward, all of us, I know right now I can tell you that the communication between Mr. Sims and the executive board of the HPPA, that would be Mr. Yother and Mr. Gessman, has never been better. And again, I say this from not just a couple of years experience of this racetrack, but a couple of decades. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner. If there are questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions?
I have
Yeah,
one. Mr.
Madam-
Mayor, if you would address the issue from the last commission meeting regarding the air conditioning during the when people are betting on the premises. Have we gotten that resolved?
We have the premises. In this case, right now, we are in the dark season, as you know, is in the paddock room, and the air. That's where the horse players go. That's where they want to go. Yes, the air conditioning is on.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
You bet.
Yes. Madam Chairman, Jerry Sims, my phone for some reason was off, and I couldn't hear. I picked it up by hearing Mr. Mayor just give his synopsis, but I didn't hear anything before that. Did I miss anything when you came off a break?
Did you get the motion on your permit?
No, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is the gentleman saying he didn't hear?
Mr. Sims is stating that he did not hear the motion on his permit.
I think Madam Secretary could repeat what was moved and found and determined.
Thank you. Anna, could we get you to read back that motion and decision on the item D1?
Sure. We had a motion made by Madam Chair French Contreras and a second by Commissioner Coolidge. And it was approved. 2 yeses, 1 no on conditional approval.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you for reading that back and for the approval. Thank you.
I'd ask and have gentlemen stay on. I'd ask that the commission go into executive session.
I'll make a
Can I
motion.
make one comment, if I may?
Not right now, sir. We have a motion on the table.
I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. With a motion by Commissioner Olson and a second by Madam Chair. I will call the roll. Madam Chair French Contreras.
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
Commissioner Coolidge.
Yes.
With a total of 3 yeses, thank you. That motion passes and we'll be going into executive session. It is now 11:52.
Sorry, folks. We'll be right back.
Yeah. Right.
Madam Secretary, can we call roll?
Yes. Anna?
Sorry. Madam Chair French Contreras,
Here.
Vice Chair Olson,
Here.
Commissioner Coolidge.
Present.
Thank you. That's three. Sorry, we have a quorum.
Thank you, and I appreciate your patience. It's my understanding that we're going to lose Commissioner Coolidge, that he has another meeting. And unfortunately, that also means that we can't continue our meeting. So I'm going to make a motion right now to end the meeting. And
Second.
thank you.
Thank you. With a motion by Madam Chair French Contreras and a second by Commissioner Coolidge, I will call the roll. Madam French Contreras.
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
Commissioner Coolidge.
Yes.
Thank you. The time is 12:30 p.m. and this meeting has adjourned. If everyone would please exit.
Thank you. And I do apologize to everybody that we had to end the meeting without being, if there was anything that somebody wanted to be able to say something, I'm available after the meeting if you want to talk to me. Otherwise, we'll just have to move forward with our next meeting, which will be in August. That's the same Thursday, correct?
August.
Yeah, August 8th.
Yes.
Here in
In
person.
person and via Google Meet.
Yes, sir.
Question,
Yeah.
you're saying we're losing,
Yeah, we had to end the meeting. Unfortunately.
not losing him off.
No, sir, I apologize. No, we're not going to shoot him. We're not going to shoot him or let him go. So we just, unfortunately, we had a legal situation come up that we had to discuss, which delayed our meeting. Then he has another meeting and we lost him. So yeah, I apologize that you waited, but I am here if you have any questions or anything you just want to discuss with me informally. All right. Thank you.